Hello everyone! Today we have another controller review. This time is the EOS Pro from Fantech. Here's a look at the dongle, the two extra D-pads included in the box, two taller analog sticks, and the USB Type-C cable. You also get these foam rings, which you should install in the analog sticks. Here's the manual. And here's the controller. The colors and design is pretty cool, and the controller already has another kind of D-pad installed. So in the end, you have three different D-pad designs. The front shell is a bit transparent and you can see the insides of the controller. On the back you have a switch for changing modes, two back buttons, and a headphone jack. There's also two trigger stoppers in the top. The buttons have a good resistance and a good travel distance, and they won't sink flat with the shell. Although you can push them harder and they will sink more, and these buttons have rubber membranes. The base of the stick is made of metal and you have anti-friction rings. The D-pad is also membrane based, but it's very responsive. The menu buttons are clicky, and as you can see, the controller has LEDs. On the top you have Hall effect triggers. They're pretty smooth, and when you activate the trigger stoppers, it will stop the triggers halfway. The shutter buttons are also very easy to press and won't get stuck. And the back buttons are completely out of the way. It's very hard to do accidental presses on this controller. The triggers feels a bit pointy here on the top, but it's not uncomfortable at all. And the trigger stoppers are very solid. With the controller turned on, you can fully customize the LEDs. You can turn off the LEDs on the sticks, or use different light modes like this rainbow one. This is the wake up mode. This is the breathing mode. Here's the solid color, and you can change the color too. And finally back to switched off. On the Nintendo Switch, it wakes up the console really fast. And it works pretty well with gyro controls and macro. The analog sticks are removable, and you can use the taller one for shooting games. The D-pad is also very easy to remove and replace. If you don't like the disc D-pad, you can try the cross one. It's a bit hard to remove the cross D-pad, but they added a small hole here on the side. You can use a screwdriver to easily remove it. And this other D-pad is not that good. The pointy sides makes it very uncomfortable. In my opinion, the round D-pad is much better. Here's a test of the analog sticks with a slightly larger dead zone in the center. But the sticks won't snap to the cardinal directions. And we have a perfect circularity as well. Now speaking about the foam rings, you have 3 pairs, and you can install them on the analog sticks like this. They physically change the resistance of the sticks, and depending on the foam type you use, you have more or less resistance. It's not as precise as a built-in resistance adjustment, but it works pretty well. Here's what happens when I try to make a circle with the highest resistance. Here's the medium resistance. And finally, the lowest resistance. The resistance on this one only kicks in at the far edge of the stick. Testing the D-pad, the diagonals are pretty good and very easy to hit. And here you can see that the triggers are digital triggers, but that's because the controller is in the Pro Controller mode. If you change it to Xbox mode, the triggers will switch to analog mode. But even on Xbox mode, if you change the trigger stoppers, it will modify the triggers. Moving to Android activates the input mode. But the back buttons here won't work independently, so you're better off using X input mode. Before I show the extra functions, I'd like to say that there is an update on the website that fixes a lot of things, and it also adds some extra functionalities. This update also bumps the polling rate from 125 Hz to 1000 Hz, so it's definitely recommended to update your controller. Moving to the teardown, we have 6 screws on the back. After removing them, you can lift the back of the controller, but be careful because the clips are very strong. You must pull the back like this to get it open. A few parts may fall, so pay attention to those as well. Here we can see that the controller has some additional weights, and the battery has 600 mA. These pins are for the charging dock. These switches are modifiers for the triggers. When you move the trigger stoppers, you will press this switch and modify the triggers. And you can see the Hall effect sensors for the triggers here. On the other side of the board, you have just the analog sticks and the rumble motors. These are K-Silver modules, and they are blue. That's the only difference I can spot. Perhaps they are a bit more precise than the black ones, but who knows. Here you can see the pivots for the triggers, and the mechanism for the shutter buttons. On the other side, the front board has a pretty cool design. And the contact pads for the D-pad are convex. This probably increases responsiveness of the diagonal inputs. And the face button layout is fixed and cannot be changed. On my final thoughts, the EOS Pro from Fantech is very solid. In the box you get a complete package that will satisfy any game you want to play, be it shooters or fighting games or racing games. The build quality is very solid, the face buttons are very good, and the D-pad is responsive as well. And with the update, the polling rate is on par with top tier controllers like the Vader 3 Pro, Gully Kit King Kong 3 Max, and the Big One Rainbow 2 Pro. The face buttons and D-pad could use mechanical switches instead of membranes, but these membranes are well made and has a good resistance and a good responsiveness. And that's all for this review. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.